This is gonna be a quick, just a quick review on, or rather a quick discussion on this. So, I don't know enough about Tuscarora grammar to actually piece together this whole entire lesson yet. I'm still in the beginning stages of this language. I'm still going through how they even construct like basic strings with pronouns and like how the where I goes as the subject and you goes as the object and all those different combinations like they the me and we the all and all that stuff. And I have not found I have not gotten to the point yet where I can translate these really well. And oftentimes, like if I want to look up a common phrase like "Where are you from?", there's not really a way to ask that. So I have had to go back and look at other Gregorian languages, and one uses like "comes from" as like the word for expressing where someone came from. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is taking that same approach and just piecing together more of the grammar from Mitoun's book, because this is a very polysynthetic language and there's not really any texts like running text that can like really give me an idea of how I might be able to say some of these things. All we have are like stories. There's like a bunch of old stories and they're not in a I would have to literally transcribe the stories down because they're not in an easy place. They're like they were printed like decades ago in one of those old books. So just like a dictionary, if I get things from a dictionary, I literally have to write all of these out by hand. Like I have to type them all out manually. So that's what's taking this so long. Like we have all the vocabulary, or at least most of the vocabulary to be able to do these things. So like for a basic lesson, like Chuen, hi, but in order to like get all these things in there, like get everything right, we have to like nominalize stems. So for example, you have a word for your name, or you have a root for name, which is like Hossein or something, and you have to like change that into a noun. And then you have other times where it's like, oh, it's fun. And we have a word for amusement, which is a synonym of fun, but there's no standalone word for fun. And then you also have, you run into like things like, for example, it says, do you like your job? So we have a word for like. We have a word for like. The word for like and the word for love are the exact same in Tuscarora. But then they also have they have these two words, right? They have nosne, and then they have nurek. They have nurek, the two words for like or love, and these are just roots. You would have to put all of your pronouns and verbal aspects and everything into these things right here. And then they also have another stem which is like to. So I'm assuming this is like if you want to actually. Like if you like a person or like something, like you like it, these are what you would use, like the simple words for liking those things. But if you want to say something like you like to followed by another verb or another infinitive, like I like to study, I like to eat, then you have to use this, I'm assuming, because it wouldn't make any sense otherwise if you have a to right there and there's nothing coming after it, which is enfrente. Enfrente. It's a nasal vowel. These are. So I have all the vocabulary that I need, and I've also done a guess on this because there's not really they have an about. They have about as an adjective and about as a preposition. So you would have to say and you, and this is usually used. Tisne is usually used to connect one sentence with another or to connect two clauses together. So there's a lot of things here, but we have all the vocabulary here, right? We have all the vocabulary. We just need to get the grammar right so I can actually build this out. Like this is the hardest part about learning a language like this, is that With Lenape, I had that 1800s grammar, so I was able to like look at that and then look at examples, and it wasn't too difficult to like understand or piece together how it might sound after a few days because I had the grammar. I had someone that wrote some kind of grammar, right? And they also had like running text. I had the Lenape Talking Dictionary, so we had different sources. For this language, all we have is a dictionary with examples. Like it's usually like some verb conjugated with that stem or different parts of the stem that are applied to the stem. So the stem like is a full word because it has like the pronouns, the aspects, as well as anything else that you need to attach to the stem to turn it into like a legitimate sentence. But I would literally have to go through Midtoon's grammar sketch and like go through each of these, follow specific sentence and syntax rules, and like look at those and then try to base these on those things. So it's probably going to take me a little while to like actually get this into some kind of accurate, or to have some sort of accuracy in translating all this, but we have all the vocabulary here. So getting the words is not the hard part. Because like with Lenape, you would have to grapple with 1800s German spelling conventions, and you would have to somehow connect that to the Unami word, and I didn't understand how those words mapped for months. So it was really painful to like go through that language. But now I know well enough I could translate, and I even have been able to program AI to give me somewhat accurate, like 40 or 50% accuracy. So it's good enough to like speed up. So if I wanted to make a unit, it would give me all the words, and all I gotta do is just replace things and change some stuff up. But with this language, this is a completely different language with a completely different sentence structure, and there's also way fewer texts that are written in it. So there's not really like a place where I can go and reference like with Lenape, I could look at this word and actually go and find it somewhere in one of my sources, or go look at my long-running missionary text and like understand how it's used, and I could convert that into the main variety. In Tuscarora, however, there's not really a way to do that because there's no text to compare the words. All we have is the dictionary and the grammar, really, and then a bunch of old texts that, like I said, I would literally have to painstakingly write out the entire stories. And I want to do that, but it's gonna take some time because even AI can't like accurately put the stuff up because it has so many symbols that they can't accurately write them all out on the first time. So that's what's taking so long. And they have things like this where yutne means work. Like that's the stem for work. So I had to nominalize this using the rules from the book. And this is exactly why I have to keep studying Tuscarora grammar, because Tuscarora grammar, in this case, because we don't have the text to go on to be able to look up things quickly, we have to learn the grammar first, because the grammar will give us the structure to be able to pick up things. So we're going to have to do a lot of out of context studies for this language. We're going to have to do a lot of out of context, like we're going to have to grab random sentences and random words to like understand the sentence structure, the syntax, understand how to take a root, how to take a stem like yutne and change into a verb or change into a noun or change it into one of those things. And then we have to put it in a certain order. And then sometimes we also have to say like, oh yeah, I enjoy doing this myself. That would be one long word sentence like this. Like this is ane nanest, to enjoy yourself, where you have like the reflexive that's already in the word. But then you want to add other aspects like the fact that it's still going on, or that it already took place, or that it will take place, or that it's an perfective, or what other aspects you have to add to this. You have to put that into the same word. Okay, so we can't really translate this traditionally. Like with Lenape, you can make a sentence, you can make it sound like English, just like Nahuatl in Mexico, or the Aztec language. Like you can make a long sentence just like English, like that, where each word maps to one specific lemma or word. But in this language, it's so polysynthetic that oftentimes, like if you want to say I'm cooking something for you, You have to say I myself make food in the present time for you, and then you add a dative in there. So that entire sentence, you cannot write that alone because dative can't stand alone. It has to be connected to other stems. And if you want to like make a whole sentence like that, where it's like you've got the verb and you're doing something to a person, all of that information, like who you're acting on, who you're doing it for, when it took place, how it takes place, at what time, whether it's finished, and all the agents in the sentence and objects, all of those are already in one sentence. If you want to say something separate, like the cat, like a separate noun did this thing at a certain time, and they want to add like, different prepositions like where it took place, and then connect T-snet and add that kind of stuff, then yes, you can certainly do that. But when we're talking about verbs and like simple subjects acting on objects with verbs in there at certain times with certain verbal aspects, you can't use standalone words for it. Like with this, I love it. You cannot like in Lenape, you could say, yeah, I mean you could put me in front of it, but you would have to put, if it's like I love it, you have to do it as one word like this. You can't separate them. But Lenape is also not as polysynthetic as Tuscarora. Tuscarora is probably the most polysynthetic language I've studied. And those other languages can be just as polysynthetic as before 1492. That's most likely how they all spoke before the influence of the concept of separating out your words with non-agglutinative languages. You just have inflected languages, not like you change this thing on English. English is not an agglutinative language. So I just wanted to talk about that because yes, we can do things like Tuscarora, for example. Sounds great. I don't even know if that's how they would say it, but there's no way to know because all I know is that quast is good or fine. Urakar is from the dictionary. It's for its sounds, like it sounds out, right? Like it makes a sound. It's not really, it sounds like that, but that's the only translation we have. So we have enough vocabulary to be able to piece all this stuff together, but we don't have sufficient grammar. I don't know enough grammar, which is why we were doing units on grammar, such as, once I go back in here, like Tuscarora 1 and Tuscarora 2, right? Like in here, we were talking about where the it is. Like, we have to master this kind of stuff. And this is just for verbs. We have to master this kind of stuff, and then we have to add on things and kind of go from there. So we do have to kind of take a Duolingo approach to this in the beginning, only because we literally do not have that many resources. But once we have the grammar available in this language, we can actually piece all the grammar together. We can create nouns from stems, and we can take the stems and create verbal sentences, verbal clauses, and we can actually take that stem and make a noun out of it, a standalone noun, right? And we can understand the adverbs and time words and how to connect two sentences together, how to express complex thoughts and all that. Then we're going to be able to make units. We're going to be able to stamp out units really quickly once those grammar things are in there. So because I'm having this issue right now, I'm probably going to have to go back through Mittoon's grammar sketch and make more grammar units, because there's simply no other way to address this. Because when you have every language has a different problem, right? With Lenape, if I had what I had for Lenape for this language, it would be very simple, right? I would have made this entire dialogue yesterday. I've been working for this thing for 2 days, and I'm also learning Lenape, and I'm also doing Amharic, so there's a lot of other things I'm doing. I got to do programming for Langjack. I'm doing new innovations. I got to make sure the site's running, and I also have to work on, making new content for my YouTube channel, which is entirely different from this because I'm doing an language series right now. So there's a lot of things going on, but I will get back to that. But we're going to have to do grammar alongside this stuff. So probably what we'll end up doing is taking grammar, plugging in what we can into here, and then just doing really basic words. So we can still introduce ourselves and things like that, but we have to do it. We're going to have to do it methodologically. I can't say that word for crap. We have to do it methodically, because it's going to be essential to be able to understand the words and the building blocks of taking the stem and creating something around that stem before, and being able to manipulate the stem that way before we can actually express sentences, because it has a different approach than English and other European languages do, or even Eastern Asian languages, which they're also they have the standalone words for everything as well. So I just wanted to make that video and just let everybody know what's going on with that. The reason why there hasn't really been anything coming out for Tuscarora, because we have that issue. So if you've watched it up to this point, you understand the frustration of not having enough sources to like really do this, because I don't have access to the course that the Tuscarora teacher training program has. So I have no way. If I had access to that, I would just use that course, honestly. But I don't have access to that, and I believe it's pretty proprietary to them. So it's probably going to be impossible to get it unless I pay. I don't even know if I could buy it, honestly. But I just wanted to put that out there. We are going to crack this language at any cost, but we're going to have to learn a lot of the grammar as we go along. So just keep that in mind. I'll see everybody in the next video. We'll have more information on the grammar and how we can piece together on a unit for introducing ourselves. Thanks, everybody.